Welcome back to the Permission Slip podcast. We have another roundtable interview for you. And today's roundtable, we're talking all about the idea of overnight success. So really what it takes to be committed and disciplined to achieve your dreams and how our dreams evolve over time and how we change and grow as people. So the two people I have on the podcast today are two people that have made a huge impact in my life, and they both happen to be men. So the first person is Alex Whitaker, and he is the owner of West Coast Strength in Oregon. And then we have Jeremy Mudick, who is the owner of Reconnect Mind Body in Arizona. Now, both of these men do not know each other, but they are both so similar, and I can't wait for you to listen to this podcast. And when I say similar, I mean they are both like gentle giants. They have a huge heart. They're making a huge impact in the world. They're running successful businesses, employing people, offering people jobs in their community, making a difference in the lives of their clients, and really visioning and dreaming even bigger than what they have today. We talk about their first dream that they ever had. We talk about challenges that we still have today with the distractions that they have, time management, what it takes to actually build a successful business that makes an impact. And I can't wait for you to listen in. At the core center, how they both started as personal trainers. So they both have that in common. Like I shared, they both have huge hearts. They both happen to have beards, and they both happen to have a special place in my heart. And I am so grateful for my relationship with each of them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in to this Roundtable podcast where we hear all about what it takes to be committed and disciplined to achieve your dreams.
Welcome to the Permission Slip podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started.
Let's just jump right into it with some quick fire questions. And since I'm going to go ahead and call you out now, Jeremy, that you were a couple minutes late, we're going to go with you first. So here we go. So share with us a little bit about where you grew up.
Mesa, Arizona.
Arizona. And then where do you live now? And you live alone? Like, what's your home life like?
I still live in Mesa, Arizona. And so I live with my girlfriend now, and we have 3 dogs, and we've been in this house for about 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now we're talking to 2 dog guys. Now I know this. Tell us about what kind of dogs do you have?
They're all pit bulls.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I like that. Joel and I used to have a boxer. She lived to be 11, but she died a few years ago, and we haven't replaced her because I feel like there's no one could replace her. And we live in Miami Beach. It's just, I don't think it's fair for a dog to be in a condo, but tell us Tell us your favorite book.
I would have to go with James Clear, Atomic Habits.
I like that one. I have that on my shelf.
Yeah.
Favorite meal to cook. Do you cook very often?
I don't anymore because my girlfriend pretty much cooks and preps all of our meals, but I used to do all the cooking, and
same. I'm right there with you.
And hey, she's a much better chef than I am, so I'm not gonna fight that at all. But for me, honestly, just a good old steak, anything with a nice cut of meat, I can go with every single day, all day.
What kind of steak?
Well, it just depends on what I'm feeling. So I order from a company called Wild Pastures, and it's like an open grazing farm, and they send me all different types of steaks. You got the strip steak, New York strip. It really doesn't matter as long as it's a good high quality beef, then I'm all for it. So I don't really have a favorite, to be honest.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. When I lived in Oregon, I ordered meat from Wall Family Farms, and it was my favorite because you knew it was like grass fed and finished. It was like local right there. So I love that. Tell us about the last time that you laughed really hard, like when you laughed so hard that you almost peed your pants.
Okay. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
So while you're thinking about that, I was like, this is so fucking challenging, because I was like, when I asked myself the question, like, when was the last time I laughed so hard? And so it's all around this idea that I've been playing with lately about like, how much fun can I have this year? And I just have not been laughing enough. So that's what it comes down to for me. But the last time I laughed so hard is at nighttime. I like to lay like I called his armpit, but like in his arm, right? And he has his arm around me. And so I always like go over and I like tap on his shoulder. So I've been doing this thing where I like was making this stupid noise and like tapping on his shoulder. And he hated it, but it was so fucking funny to me that I would just like laugh so hard, just like laughing at myself. He's like, wow, you're the weirdest. Like, we're going to sleep and I'm doing this. Anyway, that was one of the last times just a few nights ago that I was doing
I've noticed that most women really enjoy annoying their partner, that there's something really like feels good. Like Ashley, she loves to annoy the shit out of me with something. She thinks it's just the funniest shit she's ever done. And I'm like the least amused person in the world. And she's just like, lit up like a Christmas tree. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we do it again just to make our own selves laugh again. And it's really fucking funny. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Big up to Ashley for doing that too.
Right.
So it's a common thing then.
Yeah. So can you?
Yeah, it's not just you.
That you laughed so hard?
So there was a moment that just happened the other day where I did laugh really hard. I don't know if I peed my pants, but short story, it was pretty to me. This is like a simple thing of there was a bug that came out of the sink, and Katie said, "Oh, I plugged your sink because there was a bug down there." And I was like, "Oh, did you kill it?" And she said, "Well, no, I just clogged the sink." I was like, "So when I open it, is the bug's just going to come right back out then?" She goes, "Well, no, I ran the hot water." And I was like, the hot water, as this bug is crawling in the Arizona summer up this pipe, you think is going to kill it? And it was a really funny moment because she just lost it. And at that point, she was like, "Oh my God, well, how stupid am I to think that the hot water was going to kill the bug?"
I honestly, I would have totally done that. I'm like, what do you mean? It's a tarantula. Like, I got it. We're fine.
It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. Good point. I love that. Well, and I don't think you have to pee your pants, but I was talking about this the other day, and where this kind of idea came from was like, I only want to be around people that have something really interesting to say, or they make me laugh until I pee my pants. Everything else, like, I don't have time for that bullshit, right? Like, and I'm not really peeing my pants, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like a meaningful conversation. So, okay, last quick fire question, and then we'll move over to Alex. So, what is the physical activity, the lift, or the exercise that you think everybody should be doing that they're not doing, or maybe they're doing incorrectly?
Oh, wow. I mean, I would make it. I would have two, to be honest.
Okay, go for it.
One, the most basic one of all time, is a plank. I would say a plank can be something that can be used top to bottom and somewhere to help train someone to figure out what their core is doing, how it feels, how it works, how to sit neutral in your spine while loading tension. And I guess the movement besides that one would be, it's actually hard to explain. I don't know if you see on my Instagram with me stepping with the cable, pressing forward, just because we're forward locomotion beings. So anything that's going to initiate gait pattern of any type of thoracic rotation that's going to connect shoulder to hip. So it'd be something as simple as that, literally just stepping with the cable. Like anyone I've worked with scoliosis or any type of serious rotation of ribs where they can't rotate anymore, that seems to be probably the number one that I would use to help get their brain to fire those neurons to figure out how to move again.
That means he's really smart. That last part, like, that's how you know that, like, he's a really smart person.
Yeah, he knows this stuff. That's why he was at my last retreat teaching us these things, like how to actually have that connection to our body and be connected to our bodies as women, not in our head busy all day long with all the things that we need to do. So we'll go ahead and link your Instagram in the show notes so everybody can take a look at that video. And if they didn't understand, they can actually see what you were talking about, or maybe send you a DM if they have any questions. All right, Alex, so tell us a little bit about, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Astoria, super small town up on the northwestern tip of the Oregon coast. Real small, like about 10,000 people, but not a very big area.
And where do you live now? And tell us a little bit about your home life.
So I live in Salem. I live with my girlfriend. I also have 2 dogs. So, Jeremy and I are mimicking the same life right now. I love steak. I live with my girlfriend. And I got 2 instead of 3. I got my little golden doodle that I sent you a picture of as she had her head in my lap as my support animal before we started. And then I'm like the world's oldest Mastiff lab. He's like 13. And so according to dog years, I put this little calculator thing in. He's like 101 years old. So yeah, that's, in general, my girlfriend, she owns a salon. I own my gyms, and I've kind of always been a workaholic guy. So our home life is really simple. Like when we're working, we're hustling, that's what we're doing. I think both of us are pretty good at being present. So when we're at home, although I am attached to my phone, which I know everybody hates, I hate it, she hates it, but it's just kind of a necessary evil in my organization right now. But we have, we're real simple. I don't know, Netflix and chill. I think it's nothing crazy.
What about favorite book?
Favorite book? So I read this last year, and it kind of right place, right time for me. It's Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, and it just gets me. It gets me so charged up as an entrepreneur and as somebody who's been in the trenches. And it's funny because as I was reading the book, I literally felt myself smiling. And so I had not enjoyed a book that much since, I don't know, Harry Potter as a little kid. So much so that before we transitioned our last 2 gyms, I wanted to read it again because it just kind of gets me in the right space to do the things I need to do right now. So yeah, that's my favorite one for sure.
I haven't read that one. I'm going to have to dive into that one. I love books. Books are my favorite. So I'm feeling like there might be some synergy here, but favorite meal to cook at home?
Chick-fil-A. Does that count? I know.
No, you gotta cook it. Who are you talking to?
I make a lasagna that my grandma taught me how to cook that is really good. And if I wanted to impress you, I would make you my lasagna. In general, I come from a bodybuilding lifestyle, so it's all meal prep. I heat up meat. I put rice and potato. It's very simple. So it's not like I have a whole lot of things in my repertoire for cooking, but I can make a pretty good lasagna.
I love that. So while I don't eat the lasagna because I don't eat dairy or gluten, I am having everybody over for lasagna and dessert and salad tomorrow. Today's Thursday, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So send me a picture. That sounds good.
That's great. I'm excited for it. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, I love lasagna. I was like, perfect. Because that's how I love to show love. So, so do you do the meal prep or does Ashley? Inquisitive minds want to know.
Yeah, I don't do any of the meal prep. Yeah, all my meals are prepped for me. We have a running joke in our house that by about Wednesday or Thursday, there's a case of the fuckets, and all of a sudden, I'll go to grab meals and they will not be there. And so I haze her a little bit, but also for a guy that gets free food and my meals prepped for me, I can't really complain a whole lot. But yeah, she's, very much, she's like you, what she naturally enjoys to eat is very healthy foods. And I'm by nature kind of an addictive eater. I was taught how to eat when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm bored as a kid. It was just part of our culture and our family. And so I am a little bit different, more of a dopamine cycle with food. So yeah, she's over there. I think you were the first person I saw have a purple sweet potato and these weird vegetables. And so, yeah, but she does all the meal prep for us.
That's awesome. Very lucky. My favorite meal to cook is when I don't cook and Joel makes me vegetables and some sort of lean protein. And he puts some sort of spicy seasoning on it.
That is not a sexy answer. No, I'm not knocking your answer.
I love it. I'm so happy. Or if he grills, anytime he grills, that's really awesome too. But I love cooking anything that people really, really want. If someone says, I love lasagna, great, I'll make it for you. I'm not going to eat it. I'm going to make a separate meal and eat that, but we're going to eat together.
And that's one of my love languages is being on the receiving end of the food. I'm a big guy and I didn't get this way by not eating very much. I'm a slimmer version of me now, but I love food. So yeah, I would receive very well on that end.
Yeah, I love it. So tell us about the last time you laughed until you peed your pants or almost peed your pants. We don't have to say,
So I was at a bodybuilding show I was thinking about this. Now, by you asking him the question, it allowed me to sort of think for a minute. Being put on the spot's tough. So this last weekend, we were at a contest, this Cascadian show. You've probably seen it, maybe been to it over here in Bend. It's the 9th year in a row that I've gone to this show. And for me, bodybuilding shows are kind of like watching paint dry. I've been to so many and so much. So when I go, and I've got a public persona that I put on how I interact with people, I have the same 15 surface conversations. And so, everybody's pretty stoked to be there. But I'm like, okay, I could think of other things I'd like to do this weekend. And we brought a couple of our employees from the new Eugene club that we have, and it's their first time kind of hanging out with us. And these dudes are just fucking funny. And so the night before the show, I don't remember what they were saying, and I probably can't say what it is we were saying, but they made me laugh so hard. And that's where I realized I was going to have a pretty good time, and I was happy to be there. And it just made me like them. You know, you said something earlier where you like to be around people that are going to make you laugh or good conversation. Mm-hmm. For me, just being comfortable with people. I'm a pretty big introvert, and I have a strong social skill set, but it's more by necessity than anything. So I think just being around people that I'm comfortable with and that kind of match my energy or my vibration is a big one for me. So that was it. That was the last time I laughed hard.
I like it. So I think we should all commit to laughing really hard, way more than we do, by the way, and everybody listening too. So tell us the physical movement, the lift or the exercise you think everybody should be doing that maybe they're doing wrong or they're not doing.
I don't know if I'd say like doing wrong. My first thing I ever learned how to do when I walked into a weight room was do a back squat. And so it was always the thing that I was best at. I've had quite a few injuries, so I don't really train heavy or lift heavy anymore, but that and deadlifting. So squatting and deadlifting, kind of a simple answer. But one thing, when you said like, what are people doing wrong or what do I want people to do? And as a weightlifting guy, it's kind of funny for me to say this. Cardio, I just want people to move their body. Like that's the biggest thing that I probably see people not doing enough of now, and that I've incorporated more from like a health and a wellness thing, is just to move my body. I'm in my office right now. I've got this assault bike sitting next to me. I'll do that. I take my dog for walks, things that as a lifter, cardio is never an important thing to me. And most of our clients that we have at our gyms, especially general population, they're not getting their body moving and they're not elevating their heart rate and sustaining it for a period of time. So I think that's, as a purist, hardcore bodybuilding, weightlifting guy, my fluffy answer, I don't know, cardio, move your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like that because it takes off any limitation, right? Because anybody can do it no matter what. You can go outside and you can walk at a brisk pace. We're not talking like grandma speed, and not talking super fast, but anybody can walk. And walking is amazing. And you're getting in nature. So you're getting all the good juju from nature, getting grounded and releasing those endorphins. So I like it. Well, let's get into some other questions. So both of you have achieved successful businesses. And so congratulations to each of you. And I know that doesn't happen overnight and it takes hard work. So I just want to uncover and sort of peel back the layers on what that takes, what that looked like when you had your first dream and where you are today. So why don't, Alex, why don't you tell us about the first quote unquote big dream that you had? So right now where you're at is you have 3 clubs in Oregon, right? 4. Oh, look at me. So tell us, and then tell us where you're at right now. Look at me downplaying, dang. And so tell us where you're at right now. And then tell us what was your first big dream and that first step that you took to get there?
So I guess a quick highlight reel of where I'm at right now is I have these 4 gyms. All of those are sort of the front facing thing, and sort of the thing on the back end is real estate and trying to do something pretty large with that long term. It just makes a lot of sense when those businesses play into each other. I also, number one thing, identity thing, I think is still there, is I'm a coach. I've been coaching and training people for the last 15 years. I have a lot of executive clients, lifestyle, a lot of pro bodybuilders. Carmen, you are one of my badass people. I coach a lot of coaches. And so that's still one of the things that I do a lot of. So that's sort of where I'm currently at. In general, I think I didn't always have a lot of confidence. I experienced a decent amount of abuse as a child, and I didn't have a great experience in schools, both being bullied, kind of having some challenges, always being in a resource room. I come from a small town. They didn't really understand how to work with me. And so I had a lot of limitations. And I think in high school, kind of, maybe middle of the road with music because I was into band. And then maybe at the end of high school, I started to have a little bit more confidence. And I think in general, I was always looking for an outlet. So the first thing I had a dream about, I think I wanted to do music professionally. And then I think I wanted to go do something as an athlete. I thought maybe I could go to college to be a shot putter. Football was really fun for 30 seconds. And then I quickly got involved in powerlifting and working out, lifting heavy in high school when I was about 16, 17. So in general, I think as somebody who didn't have a lot of confidence and sort of came from a really humble place and didn't have a high degree of self-efficacy or really feel very good about me. I just was kind of, as soon as I got some confidence, anything was an outlet to start to dream. That's why I like the Harry Potter thing. Like I could just fantasize about my life being different at a time that it was really shitty. And so in general, I would say like kind of like end of high school. And from there, it was track, and then it was lifting. And I held on to the lifting thing forever, and through injuries, stopped competing and everything. But I think that is kind of like a dreamer mentality that, you know, I could shift gears and focus on different things, but I was always kind of looking for something to kind of like, you know, really want to believe in and this sort of chase. And so that has falling out of the top of the tree and hitting every single branch as you fall down has led me into this beautiful life that I have now. And, but I've kind of had that dreamer mentality for quite a while. And it just came with that little bit of efficacy and confidence in high school.
What was that first step that you took to start the business that you have now? Like what was that dream like?
So I remember I was going on a walk with my best friend, and at the time I was trying to figure out a way to stay in the area that I was in. I graduated from college in Monmouth. I was a strength coach there. I was dating a gal that I wanted to stay in the area for. And so we were walking our dogs, and I just was like, we were walking past this Muchas Gracias, and there was an empty strip mall kind of complex on Highway 99. Now, Monmouth, if you don't know, has 10,000 people in it. It's a very small town. And I'm like, you know what we should do? We should open a sports nutrition store, like a GNC type of a thing. And we're like, man, we're going to make millions of dollars. We're going to open this GNC in Monmouth, Oregon, one fucking stoplight. And that was kind of where it started. And so my best friend that I grew up with, him and I started this business. It really didn't go super well. And in about a year, we lost our money and we were needing to sort of pivot. And that's when I got back into coaching and training. And I kind of have this nice, you know, war story about us being like broke on Christmas Eve, like, and me cutting the windowsills out of our new building because the next day we were having to get stuff installed to be in on time for our new business. Maxed out credit cards, no money, crying. So in my head, I remember there being snow. I think I actually made that up. I don't know if there was snow, but it adds to the story.
It does. You should just keep that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. And so that's kind of where it started. And from there, like, just hustle. You know, I've been a workaholic, kind of 7-day, 100-hour work week guy for a long time, and I rebalance that a lot now. But you know, that's kind of where it started. You know, if we want to like,
I love that.
That was
I love
the
what you
business.
said that like you grew up, you didn't have the confidence, but you took action in something, and then you started building confidence. Because that's where we get confidence, right? Is by taking action. So momentum in moments leads to movements. So you did that, and then you're like, oh, I have this dream. We're going to make $1 billion with our nutrition store in Monmouth, Oregon. And while it didn't work out, but wasn't that the gift that you got to be able to start the coaching and the gym there, right?
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't have started that if it was just a mediocre business and you were still doing it. You'd maybe still be doing that mediocre business, but that failure wasn't a failure. It was just a deep learning. So how beautiful. I mean, that's just such a great story. And then to see where you're at today and to have the bigger vision of having the 4 clubs, but also owning the real estate and knowing that like there's money in that for your legacy that you're building is just wonderful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Jeremy, what about you? What did you think of like for your dream? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first, I love that he said he was talking about getting into music at the beginning, because that was mine as well.
Wow. See, I knew you guys are meant to be connected.
Band nerds. If you're a band nerd, we already know.
So we do this thing in my community. Of course that happened. Thank you. More, right? So that's the thing. Like when there's this synergy or like that aha moment, right? So this is really cool. So please continue.
Yeah. So my first big dream was to be a musician. And so I taught myself how to play the drums and the guitar in my teens. And then I would just do it like to express myself, you know, and when life was difficult in school and growing up, you know, I would just go and jam out and do my own thing. And then once I got into I would say it's like my first real relationship at about 20 years old, went through a hard breakup. And like, that's when the musician of me was born realistically. And then I started singing and writing and creating music. And so my first big dream was to be a musician. And so I went all in on it, and it was in the recording studio, and we started piecing things together, making music, doing the whole nine. And everyone loved the music, which was great. But it was still kind of like, you don't quite have what it takes, and we could sell your music. And my producer had some pretty cool connections to Chris Daughtry, that one of the managers or something in relation to 3 Days Grace, like a couple things like that, like these cool rock bands where it's like, we could sell your music and see if because it's in the same range of that type of music. I was like, no, I want to be the star. I want it to be me. I don't want to be the songwriter. These are my stories, like these are all the things I've been through. I don't want them singing that,
This is my breakup, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. This is my pain. I can't let that, and, so of course it didn't work out and I probably missed some opportunities, but what it came down to was this big wake up call of I had an opportunity to just like Alex is doing, to open a gym. And because I was a movement coach at the same time still. And so I would have to give up doing the musician things I was investing so much time into it. And I looked at it like, okay, I can put this thing that I'm good at on hold that I can always come back to and pursue something that I'm great at right now, which is helping people, and so I looked at it like, well, I love helping people. And that's what drives me in the first place, is to help people, because I've always been that guy. Someone is broken down, I'll pull over, right? If it looks like someone's getting hurt, I'll go help them out. If there's a fight, I'll get in the middle. Like I want to do that. So I'm like, doing my music, it's not going to give me the same type of fulfillment that I know that I want within my life. And so I put all the music on hold. And that's when I started pursuing the gym life and going into opening up a gym. And so that was like the first beginning. And that's when it was funny. It wasn't even a dream to open a gym at all, but it literally was just, hey, this is what you need to do. And God was like, make it happen right now with that guy. And so I was like, oh, with that guy right there, like we're friends, but and so I literally just asked him right there on the spot when the message came through. And he said, really? Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm looking at equipment right now. And I'm like, wow, what are the odds of that? So then we opened the gym after that. And that was the start, like that was the very beginning. That was the first big dream. And it kind of started to evolve after that.
I love that. And tell us where you're at now. Like, what is it that you do now?
Yeah. So now, so I still have my personal training company. So it's Reconnect Movement Systems. And so I have a trainer who works with me as well. And so we train out of my girlfriend's gym, which happens to be right across the street from Reconnect Mind Body, which is our healing center. And so the healing center is where I spend the majority of my time and the majority of my focus. It's more of a mental health practice and becoming an educational platform as well. And it's walking people through basically stress management, and every type of person you can possibly imagine comes into our place, whether it's a Navy SEAL with PTSD or an 80-year-old man suffering from dementia. Or a teen that's suicidal. You name it. We have every type of person that comes in. And so far we've had some profound experiences and breakthroughs so far. So we do ice baths, breath work, meditation, infrared saunas, red light therapy, compression therapy, and full guidance and teaching breathing techniques all through the process.
Thank you for sharing it. I love that. And by the way, you also have people like me. And when I bring like 10 or 12 of my friends, we come and hang out too. So, and we love it. So in thinking about that, so when you first started your gym with your friend, or Alex, when you first, had that one failure with the supplement company and started your gym in Monmouth, can you remember a person, a mentor, an expander, or something, or a moment that happened where you realized that you had a bigger dream that you wanted to execute?
Mm-hmm.
Either one of you can go first, but
go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. Oh.
So I think a lot for me personally, I think a lot of those moments I was really meant to get through by myself. And I it's not to say that I haven't had support. I've had a couple. When I saw your question about, who's a mentor or an expander or somebody, the only answer I really ever have to that is my granny. Like, that's who raised me. And that's what I know about strength and resilience. And more than anything, just like, I learned by watching her be strong. She's always been strong. And so in those moments, I've always had her support. Luckily, she's still alive, which is, I'm grateful. Not everybody gets to have their grandparents. And I'm, that to me was sort of my mom. And so that's where I'm pretty grateful that she's still here. But that was the person that made the biggest impact for me. I've always had good people around me and I've had love and support. But I think in the moments where I was really failing, like the test for me was sort of to get through that on my own. And I think in general, probably didn't learn to self-soothe tons throughout, my childhood. And so I think that was just kind of like my path to go, is a little bit more of an isolated experience with things. And that in general, like the mentor, if I have one, it's absolutely the granny. Like they said, she's the hardest hitting person that I know. And so everything I know about getting hit, falling down and standing back up, I credit to her.
Mm-hmm. I love that. How powerful to have someone like that in your life all the time that you know that you can rely on. Not everybody has that. So what about you? Did you have a mentor or an expander of sorts that you can remember that was a catalyst to your growth, Jeremy?
For one, thank you for sharing that, Alex. That's deep and it's beautiful to hear all that. And I know I can share as well that my family has always been a big push for me to do good, and to be there. And, but truly no one in my family knows a single thing about business. To be honest, my dad, he's the guy who gets it done. He has a very successful business, but it really is more lines if he needs good support to be like, hey, this is how we get this done. For him, it's like he'll literally just be in the grind forever and just keep going. It's like, no, hold on. You can make money doing this, so let's help you. So he got some really good help on that. So watching him go through his processes really was a big push for me. But my first big actual mentor with business was, it was when I worked at Mountainside Fitness and I was a trainer there. And I just happened to meet this guy, and he was retired SWAT. And we would just chat all the time about stuff. And he just noticed that my training style was a little bit different. I paid more attention to the people I was working with. And so he would just start picking my brain on things. And he'd just say, why don't you have your own gym? So I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really even know what that looks like. How does that process go? And so he's like, let me take you to lunch. And I was like, okay. So we went to lunch one day, and then he just started picking my brain on all these things and started to literally expand my mind on like, wow, I've never even saw myself as being a leader or someone to truly take action in these ways where I can make a difference in a community versus just, like helping a friend or helping us, and so that's kind of like that same transition phase of when I was in a musician and going into, if I was going to open my own gym. He was the big push on that. Like, well, if you want to do it, this is how it works. This is what you do. This is how businesses work. This is how money works. And he just started to pour all this on me. And I'm like, okay, we need to meet again for another lunch or another breakfast, or whatever, so I can just keep picking your brain. And he was like, sure. And so after our third lunch, and again, this is just a friend, like just a random friend. And he's a very successful guy. And he just wanted to give me knowledge, which I thought was so incredible, because most people spend a lot of money to get the information that he gave me. And he said, look, I think you're a good person. You're a God-driven man. And I think you're meant to do big things. So I want to provide a little bit of information for you. And he, of course, it went into the whole, if you want to pursue something further, and I think you should, I would invest in you. But you have to convince me that I should invest in you. I was like, oh, I see where this is going. He was looking at me as an opportunity for him too. I was like, so it was really cool, because it actually, it boosted my confidence in this whole other level of belief of like, holy crap, this guy who was so successful that could put his money in anyone's hands literally was like, hey, you got something special. We should talk. And so long story short, I did not use his funds to do it. I ended up going a different route and just using my own money on things. But the cool thing was, after the 2 years, so I trained him for a little bit. He ended up becoming a client of mine, and I trained him for about 6 months. And then he had a bunch of traveling and this and that. After the 2 years of our gym being open, he walks into my office and he goes, you have a master's in business degree now, right? And I was like, why do you say that? And he's like, look what you did. He's like, you and your partner over here, you guys did it. And then, and so then when I opened up Reconnect, it was really cool, because after the first year, we had our first year party. A couple of days later, he walks in the door of Reconnect and he just goes, I'm so proud of you, man. I was like, yeah, it was such a cool feeling.
Yeah, what an awesome story. And that's exactly like what an expander is all about, right? It's people that see you, not where you're at today, but where they know that you could be. Like they help see this vision. I know growing up in a small town, the success model that I had modeled for me was like, go to high school, hopefully figure it out, go to college. So I put myself through college, get a career, get a good job, get a house. I bought my house when I was 23. We had the family young, we had all the things. I was successful, making over 6 figures in my corporate job, thinking everything was great because that was the success model that was modeled for me. And I didn't really know anything else because I hadn't had my mind wasn't expanded to know that anything else was possible. So that's why I always like to ask this question, because I think people need to seek out expanders more often. We don't need to know everything and we don't need to do it by ourselves. And the faster that we seek out expanders and expand our mind on what's possible and ask for help and have a beginner's mindset, the faster we're going to learn, the faster we're going to grow, and the bigger the impact that we can make, I think, on the world that we're trying to make. Which is why I have both of you on this podcast right now, by the way, is because you're equally making an impact for the lives of others and you care about that. It's not just about making money. Yeah, you're making money and you're making good money and you're building legacy and you're doing that in a great way, but you're making a big impact too. And you actually care about people. And not everybody does that. So now we're all in a position where we can be expanders for other people too, right? Which is really, really beautiful. So talk to me a little bit about, Jeremy, I'll have you go first here. Like, when you're building your business and over the years in building your business, like what is one principle or what is something that you really hold on to that has brought you quote unquote success in your business?
Easy, my faith.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Every single moment of doubt, every moment I feel fearful and I'm uncertain of what moves to make, I always fall back on my faith and I pray. And I take those steps where I know that I'm willing to be guided, and I know that I don't have it all figured out and it's probably not going to be perfect and there's no need for it to be. So and I've had a lot of those moments, because starting Reconnect, I started it literally when everything was shut down, the whole world was shut down and everyone was still wearing masks. And in Arizona, like you couldn't have more than 10 people in a space, that whole thing. So my girlfriend and I opened up the gym at the same time, and so I was going back and forth. Like it was like I was literally training clients, and then I would have like my Instagram was set up so people were messaging me to come check out the place. So I would literally like train a client and then run across the street over to Reconnect and give a tour of the facility, which literally had nothing in it. It was me just showing pictures. You showing pictures of
hustle. That's what that is, Jeremy. That's hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was tough, and so I would sell memberships that way, which was mind blowing, but it's because they I believe that this is going to be something great. Yet there's literally one tub that not even set up yet. There's you know what I mean? And but really it was my unwavering belief that this was going to work. And God instilled that in me that this is the perfect time. I just have to keep taking action and I can't let anyone or anything get in my way. And that's what I did. And I literally went, and it was tough, man. It was like train a couple clients, run across the street, stand down this wall, chip off this whole paint, whatever, and then go back, train some clients, come back, sit because the place was a wreck. We had to literally remodel the whole place. And it was literally by my hands and my girlfriend's hands. It was a lot of work, but it made it that much more amazing to see it when it was done, where it's like, oh, like look what we built, and the fact that people actually came in during that time frame was amazing. But yeah, truly it all falls back on my faith and realizing that he's given me all that I need. I just have to take action because he's not going to come here and do it for me.
I love that action part. I think sometimes if we're people of faith, then we believe that sometimes we forget the action taking part, right? Like we're just
yes.
waiting for it to, waiting for God to do it for us. Doesn't really work like that. So What about you, Alex? What's one thing that you really hold on to, like a principle around your business success?
So I've gone through a couple of different cycles and phases. I've always been pretty obsessive. I think that to really get somewhere special and unique, you're going to have to do some crazy things and break through some personal barriers. And there's a lot of intangible factors. But for me, I realized, because people kept asking me questions like, well, when am I going to stop When am I going to take a break? When is it good enough? When is it, when will you settle? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm not very old. I'm 33. I turned 34 in a couple of weeks. And if this is where I'm at now, then what is another 5 and 10 years? And how do I want to live my life? And it's funny, I'm not as much of a workaholic as I used to be, but I still find myself getting into more projects, and the momentum and the snowball effect of the thing that I started so many years ago is now just its own big organism. And so I realized probably like a year or so ago that I was running a race that didn't have a finish line. And as soon as I heard that, there was a famous author, I can't remember his name, and he said, I'm running a race that doesn't have a finish line. And he's in his 70s or maybe even 80s. He's still writing books. He's still speaking. And so that really resonated with me, because it's not one of those things where I have a defined endpoint to things. And I continue to get new information. I have all these great people coming into my life. My phone keeps ringing for new opportunities. And then that sort of plan leads you to the next plan. So in general, I just know that this doesn't really have an end, or at least right now, I can't see that. And in general, I just want to see where it goes. Like I want to see it get as big as it can. It's like, I don't have kids, but I think when I do have children, I'll want to see just like how great my kid could be. I just want to sit back and enjoy this whole thing. But yeah, that running a race without a finish line, which is hard because that finish line is an external factor that makes you push harder to finish. It is this dopamine cycle that's easy to play into, because then you reach that next checkpoint or the touchdown. And so how do you run a race that like never finishes, and how do you run hard, and how do you measure things? And those are all sort of, inner challenges that I experience while I'm on this thing. But yeah, that's my principle that's unwavering.
So I love both of those so much. And what I heard was like, have full faith and belief in that assignment that you've been given, in that nudge and that dream and that vision, and then take action for it every day, and then do it your way. And just know that in order to live a fulfilling life, we have to continually be challenged. And that's what you're saying, like continue to run the race. I know that when people get to a certain point and then they just stop being challenged, then that's when life stops being fulfilled. Like we have that incongruency inside of us. Like we have all these things externally, but we're not being challenged. And maybe it's not a business challenge anymore. Maybe it's a personal challenge, or maybe it's a hobby that we're starting now, or maybe it's a challenge with our family or something. But to continually have a good amount of pressure that you put on yourself, I think is a really great thing. And if you can continue to do that, I think you can continue to maintain your health and your relationships and all the thing. When you start being complacent, then I think that's where everything starts to slide. When people will say, when they retire and then they stop doing anything, and then their health goes down and everything goes to shit, right? So I love both of those. So something came up, this idea that came up to me is like, so how do you stay focused? Like, what are let's call ourselves out on like, what are your biggest distractions from actually staying focused on the things that you need to do? Like maybe causes you to procrastinate or whatever it might be. So Alex, I'll let you take this one. What are your biggest distractions? What are you working on right now? Because even as successful, amazing entrepreneurs that are making a big impact in the world, we still have the shit that we work on, right?
I think it's the same stuff that everybody else is dealing with. There's a lot of stimulus. There's a lot of distractions from people, relationships. Not that like relationships are necessarily a distraction, just you find that there's so many things to juggle and there's so many places to put energy, and you're on this finite budget. You have so much time, you have so much energy in a given day. How do you budget accordingly? And I think it's easy to lose track. I always wish that I could be somebody that's maybe a little more heroic. Like, all right, I wake up at 5 a.m. I have 16 ounces of lemon water. I do my affirmations. I've got my journal. And I know those are amazing things. I wish I could, I know I could. I have a different style. I freestyle. I free flow in and out of things. And I've got some really strong ADD. Are we still diagnosing that? Is that a thing nowadays? But like I bounce around from thing to thing, and I have over 100 employees. We've got 4 different gyms, lots of projects. So I have to, like, in order to be a good executive, I have to pinball like a motherfucker between all of these things. And so the big thing for me, I mean, it's easy to get distracted by your phone and power scroll and kind of get into that side of things. So I think I'm pretty human in that like living in a world of all these lights and all the cell phones and everything going on, you're like, shit, man, it's easy to get lost in this. I have always taken a lot of time away from sleep. And, I just didn't, I haven't slept like forever. And then all of a sudden, like I hit my 30s and I had to sleep. It was really weird. It was like biologically, I could no longer pursue greatness on 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And so, yeah, I don't have any one particular thing. I think that, it's easy to smoke too much weed. It's easy to be on your phone too much. It's easy to do any one thing and just sort of lose track of time. And so that's my biggest thing is like, there's not enough time in the day. I'm bitching about the same thing everybody else is bitching about. Like, if I just had 2 more hours. But like I said, the race doesn't end. So I like that, I keep getting a little bit better with time management. My ability to focus and be present is greatly enhanced. I used to do this thing where I couldn't be present or like be here with you in this conversation because there's so many things going on upstairs. And so now I feel like that's a better habit of mine, but like reinforcing like the power of now and the need to stay present is like, I still struggle with that. I still have 6 personalities and have 5 conversations going on with me, myself, and I, and all these things pulling me away and all these people that want and need my time, my attention, text, emails, calls, employees, relationship. And so, yeah, it's a lot to juggle to be a human in the 21st century, but those are half a dozen things I'm trying to balance out better.
I feel you on that. So can you give us like one tangible thing that you do that you said you got better about being present? Is there something specific that you've done that's really helped with that?
I started to read more books and I started to do some things there and understand how finite time is, like that I'm probably not going to have as much time as I want. I've always had this fear that I was going to die early. And so for me, I think I started to really understand how valuable time is and how fast it's kind of going, and that I couldn't hold on to it as much as I tried. I couldn't hold on to time. And that made it so much more important to realize that whatever's happened, because I used to get depressed a lot, doesn't exist anymore. Whatever's going to happen, the things that I get anxious about, those things haven't happened yet. It just reinforces how valuable my time and my energy is, and that I'm here right now with you, with Carmen, with Jeremy. We're here right now. So I want to be fully in it. I want to be here. And I spent so much of my life not being present that it reinforced like how shitty you feel when time kind of you lose time and it slips by and you're like, shit, I wish I would have been there more for that. So that's it. I mean, nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that so much. I always like to say, like, what would it be like if each moment of our life was the most important moment of our life? How much more would we experience? How many more opportunities would come to us? How much more would we discover, not only about ourselves, but about other people? How much more compassionate would we be? How much more understanding would we have? Like, how much more enjoyable life would be if we could just be fully present in the moment? So thank you so much for sharing that. And how I like to define my definition of presence is using as many of your senses as possible in one given moment, right? What can you see? What can you taste? What you can smell? What can you touch? There's also your sixth sense, like what can you feel, like in your heart space, like your intuition. So thank you so much for sharing that. What about you, Jeremy?
Was the original question distraction?
Yeah, distractions. Yeah. What is your biggest distraction right now? What are you working on?
Well, honestly, yeah, I'm kind of like with Alex here. I have a lot going on all the time right now. So I have a long list of things to get done. And, but I honestly, my biggest distraction is I'm a research nerd. So I will spend too much time researching information in all areas. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh crap, I need to stop doing this because I need to get things done. And yeah, it's good because I get more knowledge in all these other areas, but I don't need to be an expert in all these other areas when I can just hire someone that's an expert in that area. There's no need for me to try and be an expert in that space. And so I think that is honestly one of my biggest distractions, is that I have to physically stop myself from trying to gain knowledge in this area that has nothing to do with what I'm currently trying to get done. And I go, oh, I just did that for 45 minutes. Okay, let's get to work over here. Mm-hmm. That's got to be my number one distraction, I would say. And that's like a daily battle for me. And it's funny because when I was younger, I didn't have that problem at all. I didn't care about knowledge or expansion or anything. And then once I shifted my perspective on it, and I started to really dive into power of the mind and and not necessarily the whole knowledge is power thing, but learning how to take action with that knowledge was really where I felt like, okay, like I'm not experienced in any of these things because I was never taught about these things. So I want to learn all these things. Like I wanted to always have that ability to where I can just go and have my own house and build everything top to bottom. Like we're like water system, this, and that kind of thing. So like I spend time researching that stuff and I'm like, I don't even have that kind of, I don't have an off-grid house. Why am I trying to become an expert in this? Yeah, like maybe one day I'm going to use it, like any repairs need done around the house, because I worked for my dad's construction company for about a year. So I did learn a lot there, so I can pretty much fix anything around the house, but I don't need to build a home, I don't know why I'm trying to learn how to build a home. So that's got to be number one.
Distractions are a big thing, right? And oftentimes it's really like that ego self, that fear-based self, right? That's throwing something up that like we're pushing into uncomfortable in a certain area. So it's like, oh, it's easier to scroll on my phone or to research how to build a house off grid. I don't know if I would do that, but I love that you're doing that shit. And so it's like, okay, well, what do I need right now? What do I need right now? Like, what would the highest version of myself do right now in this moment? Not me, who's just trying to make myself feel safe, right? And like be comfortable and do this thing that's making me feel comfortable. So both of you talked a lot about a lot of things going on in time, and listening to my podcast, for the listeners that have listened for a long time, everybody knows that I say time is irrelevant. It's all about the energy that you have, and we should be building our day based on the energy that we have available and the activities that we have planned. And we should be planning that based on the season of our life and the focus that we're in right now. And we need to make sure that we're delegating, we're asking for help, and we're setting proper boundaries. So with that whole thing being said, on my outlook, tell me a little bit about how you manage your time. Like, what does your day look like? And how do you actually make sure that you take care of yourself now? Let's start with you, Jeremy.
Well, humbly admit
I needed more time to think about that, so I'm glad you started with him, because I was like, oh shit, that's a big one.
Run us through your day. And it's okay if you're not doing what I said, but I was just putting that out for the listeners that are like, whoa, this is opposite of what Carmen talks about.
I will humbly admit that time management is and has always been a struggle of mine. And it's because I have always been the kind of person that I'm kind of the opposite of Alex on this. Like, I am always so present that I will dedicate too much time into, for example, I can sit, like if we were just all sitting at lunch right now, I could sit and talk to you guys for 3 hours and you go, oh, we had all these other things to do. And I would say, oh yeah, I should, like I have a difficulty on saying, boom, got to go, other thing, like, hey, sorry to wrap up this time, got to move on, and delegating was also a big issue for me too. So this all comes down to my time management has always been a struggle. And so my energy has always been, whoever's in front of me, you're going to get the most of my energy. And I have acknowledged that is not a good thing at times, because then I'm exhausting my energy for all of these people, and I'm giving less time for myself and truly for the people that actually need my energy more versus just a random person, right? So my time management has always been a struggle. And so now the things that I do are actually I learned from my girlfriend, because she is time management master. Like, she is absolutely so good at this and has taught me so much about how to structure your day in a way that can be productive, but also create space that is still for you. And so now within my days, I know that, okay, I'm going to do 2 hours of computer work right here. And then I'm going to go see my staff. I'm going to go meet with my manager. I'm going to go work out. And then I train a couple clients here. I'm going to do this, it's like, and I kind of structure my day out like, hey, 20 minutes to sit and read. I'm going to do 20 minutes of breath work. Like I now have that in my schedule. It's not a daily thing, but it's the majority of my week now has some form of a blueprint to say, I'm not just going to waste a day because I'm exhausted. If I'm exhausted, then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start out with some breath work then and some prayer, and I'm going to get my shit together and let's see how I feel afterwards. And then usually after you do that, that's why the breath can be so powerful, is because you can, the same type of breath work to make yourself fall asleep and energize you, because it's all intention, right? So every single breath you take can bring in energy realistically, and it's happening at the cellular level, but it all depends on your mindset. So if I'm trying to condition my mind in this moment to relax, I will activate different brain waves during that breath work. So I use it like, hey, get your shit together, Jeremy. Every breath is going to be to bring energy in, to wake my shit up. And then I do. And then it typically goes, okay, now I feel ready. Boom. And I just get to work. So that's why I totally align with what you said about your energy. And I think it's what Tony Robbins says often is that wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. Is that right? So I feel kind of aligns with that. Like my energy before would always flow into miscellaneous, and then I'm like, oh, all these other things have to get done. Now I'm rushing to get them done. And so now with my life, the last 6 to 8 months, I would say been a lot more structured. Now everything is getting done and my team is a lot happier and my businesses are growing and we're going to expand. And all these things are finally getting done because Jeremy finally has delegated and have created time management.
Thank you so much for sharing so openly. I appreciate it. What about you, Alex?
Original question, sort of like what my days look like and how I manage my time.
Correct.
So I would say that I'm pretty decent with time management. The issue ends up being when you're trying to fit this much stuff into half the amount of time and space, therein lies the difficulty. So in general, I mostly wake up at the same time every day. I have a standing schedule where most days of the week, like my Monday looks like my Monday. I go to Portland, I check in with core meetings and I run those clubs on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm here in Salem doing some corrective exercise. So there's like one deposit kind of for me, and it's an appointment that I make sure never to miss. And then I run our Salem clubs and I meet with managers and training departments. And then Wednesday we go down to Eugene. We run those things. We're very much in the beginning stages of remodel, transition of ownership, and doing a lot of things. So when we're down there, between doing kind of the PR stuff of shaking babies, kissing hands, and just trying to organize every aspect of the business internally from an operations standpoint. And I'm still at a place where I really want to have my finger on the pulse of what's going on, but I also do delegate a lot of stuff. I have a lot of managers and a lot of employees and good marketing guy, best attorney, best accountant. Like I've got all these good resource of people, but I'm in probably a fairly uncomfortable chapter of I got to get a lot of shit done. So I have mostly been doing like 7 days a week since August. I ride a pretty fine line of insanity and burnout right now. And it's one of those things. I've done this before, so I kind of know my limits and I know how to make some deposits back into taking care of myself. And so I do those things, whether that's time with my person, my dog, therapy, something I've been doing for the last couple of years. It's made a tremendous impact in my life. That's actually the appointment that I go to after this. I get to go see him. I call him the Godfather. And,
I love it.
Yeah. And so, but it's pretty chaotic, and it's not because I manage time poorly. This is an ambitious swing to scale my company. And I know that this is a year that if I show up for every swing and for every moment, that I won't regret it. But I am kind of in a little bit of the uncomfortable, painful side of things. I, by nature, am somebody that is afraid of what's going to happen if I miss or if I slip. And, so I'm really charging myself up to be able to walk this fine line right now, but it's also one of those things where, is it sustainable? No, it's not sustainable. And is it balanced? No, and it's not particularly healthy. But if I'm going to stand up here holding a microphone and tell you what it takes to get to this certain point, this is just that version of overnight success for me is like, hey, an uncomfortable childhood, like a hard school experience. And for the last 15 years, I've been busting my ass, and like it's to be here. And I've got a lot invested, and I'm the head of my family. And so there's a lot that rides on that. And I don't want to miss that. I do allow myself to be a person, but at the same time, like, my schedule is not quite, shit, Jeremy, I'm going to be a client of yours after this. You're going to teach me how to breathe and be intentional. And then Carmen's going to teach me how to do some self-love stuff. So, I don't have that same answer you guys do. And I'm, and I look up to that, and I know that's something I want to model, and I do. But I'm in kind of like a hustle soldier part of my story right now. And I wasn't here until recently. I was very comfortable. We were more balanced. I was more present and kind of healthy. And then now I am living 5 lives, but, very much intentional. Like it's my choice to do it and live this lifestyle.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Honestly, I really appreciate it. You mentioned overnight success and, the success that you've had since you opened your club in Salem, which is amazing, by the way, the best club. I haven't been to the other ones yet, so I can't say that, but
you're not missing out. Those ones we're in process. You got the one I want you to see is the one you've gone to.
Yeah. It's like when I sneak in and I'm like, I'm coming in to train. It's my favorite place. It's like my favorite playground to go to when I go to Oregon, whether I'm going to be in Salem or not. I always stop in there. So thank you. But since you opened that and really like people were seeing you have this success, like showing like what it takes to get there. Sometimes there's seasons where we have to put in extra. We have to be able to put in more. Jeremy, you talked about it when you were running across the street from the gym to the, healing studio that hadn't even just had one tub in it. You're selling memberships just off of a promise, and a passion that you had. But that's what it takes. Sometimes it takes that, within my business. I have seasons during the year where I'm doing a lot of like retreats and launching my Flow Academy. And like, it's just a lot for like a few months and then it slows down again. And so the reality is it's not always going to be like everything is like peaceful, right? There's going to be flows, ebbs and flows in business and in effort that we have to give in. But it's also, as we grow, learning those integral people that we need on our team to do part of the job for us, and those absolute things that we need to take care of ourselves. So as we wrap up, like, what is that one thing that you make sure and do no matter the season of your business that actually takes care of yourself? Alex?
Jeremy, you got to go first on this one. I'm the let's take care of myself guy. Like you guys teach people on this.
So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Like, we're together for a reason, and maybe the reason is like there is something.
So that I can become a client of Jeremy's, Carmen. That's why.
Well, it might be because he can teach you to breathe. Like he is like magic, by the way. But here's the thing, though, is maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit, Alex. Maybe you are doing these things. When I hear you talk, you're like, I do my corrective exercise every week. I go to therapy appointments. Who does those things? Not very many people, but those things that people might put off, other people are exercising and doing this and doing that. Not to say you don't do that either, but these two things that you are doing are what you need to make you grow as an individual and as an owner, a founder, an executive in your companies. Those are the things that you need to do, and you're doing them religiously every week. Like, why aren't you giving yourself credit for that?
I think I used to really lean into like kind of the pain. And I think it was just like the character that I was at the time. And I was kind of conjugating that every day. And I've now sort of reversed it to where I do what I have to. I need just the right amount of sleep, the right amount of caffeine, not too much of this. And so I've sort of figured out how to calibrate all these small knobs and dials to put myself in a winning position. And a thought kind of before you'd asked the question was, I've really been settling into this thing that's helped me and served me really well lately, which is at any given moment, if I'm feeling whatever it is, let's say it's some of the bad feelings. I'm feeling anxious, I'm fearful, I'm whatever it is. It's actually really easy to get through those things because I know that I'm not going to be there for more than about 3 seconds, because in 2 o'clock, I've got a meeting, I've got another phone call. And I just know that time is so dynamic and I'm flying through this stuff. And so I don't really get too negatively affected by any one thing anymore. And yeah, I do have the right amount of like recharge time, even when my body shuts off and says like, hey man, like we literally need to sleep. My body will not let me go. So I've gotten better at listening to that and sort of not like going against the grain as much. Now, on a given day, I'm still trying to be a tough motherfucker and get after it and maybe go against the grain. And that's my mantra. My mantra is all about intensity and hard work and raw. But the other side of that is way more now than it has ever been is that I do these small things to make that manageable in order to like sit with my dog. I don't know. I'm pretty accepting of my emotions and I'm candid. I say stuff and I'm open with where I'm at with people. And so yeah, I think that there's enough small tools that all add up. And I've just sort of figured out in my survival skill set how to do those extra things. And before, I didn't need them. I didn't reach a breaking point or a ceiling or a limit like I do now, where if I didn't do those things, like I'm not going to be around very long, And so now by nature, and I'm accepting, like I want to be happy. I want to feel good. I used to not care about any of that stuff. And now I'm embracing of this human experience in a totally different way. And so, yeah, I go to therapy and I sleep more and I turn off my phone and I do things and I do have kind of some limits that I set. And it's because when I do set them, I set them. And sometimes, like I said, as I explained, I'm going to be imbalanced a little bit. which is where Jeremy's going to teach me how to breathe right. But
thank you thank you for sharing that, because you have practices and you're just, you were not giving yourself credit for it. So thank you for acknowledging that for yourself. I think it's important. I think as humans, we don't give ourselves credit for the things that we do or celebrate enough, how fucking awesome we really are. Because inherently, like, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with life. It just is. And if we can step back and just realize that it all just is, then we can come from this place of peace and freedom so that we can show up, hardworking, compassionate, just all the things without having to go around placing meaning on things, judging people or judging ourselves or comparing ourselves, and just going for our passions and making the difference that we're making in people's lives, like you guys are both doing. What about you, Jeremy?
I love all of what you just said. So just like Alex said, I'm gonna teach him how to breathe right here. I would say the two things that I never skip ever, and because they're the two things that have changed my life, which is why they're both tattooed on my body, and that is prayer and breathing. So I say breathing because it doesn't have to necessarily be breath work. It's more along the lines of breath awareness. And what it does is it gets you primed and ready for the day, just like how I use my prayer to get my day set and surrendered to God so I can be guided. So I stack those two together because, for one, the breathing gets me into my body and I can get myself aware of how I feel and what's going on. So like I was saying before, if I'm really tired, maybe sleep sucked or something like that, or if I have a big day ahead, like, I need to know if I had a long day the day before, maybe I had an argument with someone, or maybe I had a crazy dream or a nightmare or something, who knows, right? But you carry that stuff into the next day. And so first thing in the morning, if you're not getting in tune with your breath, then your nervous system is still sitting in the state that it was the day before or the night of. So it's getting yourself fully aware of that. So if something does need to be changed or altered, I use the breath first thing in the morning to do that. Even if I'm rushing, like if I woke up late and I'm like, holy crap, I got to get going, I will get in my truck and I will turn it on and I will sit there and I will get connected to my breath and I will slow everything down. I mean, all it takes is 30 seconds sometimes just to get yourself back in tune. And then you can feel, man, my heartbeat's like this. Bring it down, get it all the way back down. And then I'll, say a quick prayer and then I have to go. Even if I'm rushing and I'm already late, there's no reason to skip that ever. Because if I don't do that, then you're not going to get a real genuine version of myself and I'm not going to be as productive. I will not be present. We're in a reactive state. And this is where my stress is going to slowly increase throughout the day. And I'm going to be sitting more in my sympathetic, which is going to stress me out. And then my energy is going to start tanking much faster. And I'm going to feel more reliant upon my coffee and other people's energy to get my ass going. But really, if I could have just brought a little bit of conscious awareness to my breath and how I woke up and how I start, then everything else could have been different. It's like you said before, if we treated every single day like it was our last day, or every moment like it was our last moment, whatever those things are, learning to just connect to your breath within that moment can literally create that for you. It opens the doorway for those possibilities. And then for me with my faith, it's the same thing with, I'm going to let him lead me through the day. Hey, use me. If you're using me to help people, then use me. And I'm ready to be led, and at the same time, if my breath isn't on point, and it even talks about breathing in the Bible right at the very beginning through the nose. And so it's just showing us how important those things can be connected at the same time. So that's it.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much. Were you going to say,
what I think is, something that I think that as he's talking and I'm listening to it, the three of us are undoubtedly very different people. We have very different perspectives, and you can hear each of us sort of illustrate how we go through our lives. And so, but what were the common things between these three very different people is there's a strong amount of awareness. We each have some tools that we use. All of us use the word calibrate. So whether you do it your way, I do it my way, and Jeremy does it his way, we all have some things that we're calibrating and resetting ourselves to our center line. We're all pretty self-aware. And then, the idea of being present and being here, so again, three very different people all saying some of the same things to arrive at a similar function and place, just, in different styles, different flavors.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And that's the whole point of this Roundtable podcast, is that the people that are listening can now take something, a golden nugget from each of us, and then they can start to get curious, because that's what it's about. Like curiosity is the middle point between where you are now and where you want to go. If you can just get curious and start taking action on things and collect evidence for what works for you, then you can start calibrating, being aware, being present in what works for you in your life in your way. And then you can show up on a Roundtable podcast and you can have your way that you talk about it, right? Like that's what this life is all about, where I was going with, there's nothing wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with life. It just is. But it's just like figuring out how we want to play in it, right? How we want to, the people we want to meet, the conversations we want to have, the laughter that we want to have so we can pee our pants, right? Even though neither one of you went along with that, but whatever, that doesn't matter. But as we wrap this up, I just want to say, I want to give you an opportunity just to share how people can connect with you. I want the listeners to definitely post this on their Instagram stories, tag us with like their biggest takeaways. But I just want to say the reason why I had both of you on here is because I feel like both of you are like my gentle giants. Like you have the absolute biggest hearts. And the knowledge and wisdom that you have and the humbleness that you have around it, like it needs to be, you need to share it more. More people need your voice. So if you're listening to this and you are someone that's looking for like a speaker at your next event, I know Alex that's something that he's into. And if you are looking for a workshop on like movement or breath, I know that's something that Jeremy is definitely into. And these guys love to travel. So see, we got to get them out of this hustle mode and we got to get them into making a difference in other ways. So if you're listening, reach out to them because they definitely want to do that. But it has just been my pleasure having you on the podcast. And I'm so grateful for both of you. What's the best way to reach you, Alex?
So for me, probably Instagram is it. Facebook is kind of a dated thing for me now. So just strongman_Alex is a great way. I'm pretty interactive with people and I've made a lot of great connections online. So that's a good one. From there, you can find my gyms and my email. And if you're wanting to connect to be a client or do something like that, I don't work with a ton of people now, but I always encourage people to reach out to me because I can either help connect them with a great coach or I might be a great fit. Carmen, you're a coach, and I'm always honored to coach coaches. And so the internet's a cool place. You meet a lot of great people. But yeah, Instagram's the place for me, probably.
Okay. Thank you. Jeremy?
I would say very similar. It would be more along the lines of Instagram, website, email. All of them are the Reconnect Life. All of them are right across the board.
Okay, cool. So if you're in Oregon, you got to hit up Alex's gyms. And then if you're in Arizona, you got to go see Jeremy. You got to go do like you got to do the whole circuit. It's like the cold plunge, the compression, the sauna, the red light, and they have the best coaches over there for the cold plunge too, which is really cool. So,
thank you.
All right, guys. Any final words?
What an honor this was. This was fantastic. And I honestly, I love these kind of conversations where we can explore such a wide range and like Alex is saying, to see a different perspective on everything, but we all have similar structures and things that we do. So it's very cool. So I just honored to be here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Same thing for me. I just appreciate the opportunity. It's nice to do something different. I noticed that I look forward to the change in routine and doing something different. And so this was something that I looked forward to doing. I enjoyed doing, got to connect with you guys. And so, I just appreciate being able to be here with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here too. So thank you guys. I'll let you get on with the rest of your scheduled day and I'll talk to you soon.